Welcome everyone. On behalf of Bridgestone and Webfleet, I'd like to thank you for giving up your time to join us today, especially considering your busy work schedules. We've also got people dialed in remotely, so hello everyone online. Your dedication to exploring this kind of crucial theme of fleet decarbonisation is commendable. We believe the discussion we're holding today holds the potential for significant positive impact on reducing fleet CO2 emissions. So thank you. Right, as gold sponsors of the EV Cafe, we are thrilled to have John Curtis host our event today. John is a massive champion of electric transition and has been driving the fleet decarbonisation for over a decade. He has policy experience gained with the Scottish Government and has worked with brands such as AA, BMW, Renault, Nissan, Go Ultra Low and LeasePlan on their sustainability plans. John has been a driving force within the EV Cafe, supporting UK fleets move towards electrification. And with little, I suppose, no more delay, I will hand you over to our host today, John Curtis, and also invite our panelists onto the sofa for our discussion today. Thank you.
Cheers, Alan. Thank you very much. Hello. Right, you're really going to have to work with me here because, you know, this is Monday and I don't usually do Mondays. So, hello. Right, good. We're in the right frame of mind. Hello out there. Hope you're well. Apparently, there's 200 and odd people out there watching this event. So you are superstars now. This is going to be on YouTube later on. My name's John Curtis. I am the ex-head of sustainable transport for the Scottish Government. So my job was 12 years ago, if you can believe it, to put in a network of chargers for Scotland, which I did, and created Charge Place Scotland, bought 320 electric vehicles when there were only 320 electric vehicles in the world. I had them all. And we gave them to local authorities and said, go do your thing. Break them, love them, race them, do whatever you fancy, but learn from them. And they did. And they're now one of the biggest, well, they are the biggest privately owned network of chargers in the world. I'm very proud of that, but that was just the first bit of the journey. And there's an awful lot that goes into making up an EV fleet and running an efficient, clean operation, as you well know. So I've got some friends with me today. So friends, come and take a seat and we'll do some introductions. Oh, George, you as well.
I'll see what you do there.
Right, so we have a panel of experts from different parts of our industry who are bringing with them, oh, 4 on the sofa, golly jeepers. Friends. Right, so they have various experiences. Let's get some introductions done. George, 30 seconds on George Newton, starting now.
Oh, crikey. My name's George. I work for Iveco. I'm the key account manager. Obviously, we're on our journey to provide EVs and alternative fuel vehicles, and that's what I'm here for today.
Iveco. Who says Iveco in the audience? You do. A few. Who says Iveco? Who says Iveco? Okay. And you're all right. We've asked the guy who's responsible, Mike Karts, he's the newly promoted director of business line and looks after the e-daily. And I said to him, what the hell is it called? Because we just don't know. And anything will do. So everybody was right.
No wrong.
Thank you, George. Gary.
My name's Gary Powell. I'm the technical manager for Bridgestone Europe. I've been in the tyre industry about 33 years and I've been working for Bridgestone for 21. So started my life in terms of tyres as a passenger car tyre designer, moved into original equipment for passenger car and van, and then more recently technical manager where I look after small grass tyres all the way up to earth mover. So anything black and round, that's what I deal with. Okay, thank you.
That could get us into a whole heap of trouble. I'm autistic, and from the age of about 5, I used to perv, and I do mean perv, over tread patterns on tyres. I absolutely love them, and hand-cut treads are just the most sexy thing on the planet. You know, it takes all sorts. Be nice. Thank you, Gary, for all you do for me. and my private. Richard.
I hope I don't find another one of your secrets. Hi, everyone. My name is Richard Parker. I work for Webfleet as the EV consultant for the UK, which is part of Bridgestone Mobility Solutions. I guess my day-to-day job now, since January, has been to help everyone possibly in this audience who's not yet started their decarbonisation journey, to help them understand what data they might need, how they use it, and start the action plans to make a difference.
Good man. SJ Mitchell from OVO. Talk to us. Who that?
Yeah, so my name is SJ Mitchell. I am from OVO Energy. I am the Senior Fleet and Supply Chain Manager. I joined OVO about 4 years ago, where we first started our transition to electric vehicles. We are currently sitting at 87% electric as of today.
Wow.
And we do not have depots. So I'm here to tell you that it can be done. It's tricky, but we've done it, and hopefully you guys can do it too.
Superb, SJ. Well done. Thank you. And you're an award-winning fleet manager as well, aren't you? You're not just a fleet manager. You've been recognised as one of the very best in the industry, and people should sit up and take notice. Well done. And then there's the bloke on the end. Anyway, go on.
Thank you, John. Thank you. You can tell we know each other quite well, can you? Hello, everybody. Good afternoon. I think it is now. My name's Sam Clarke. I'm the Chief Vehicle Officer at Gridserve. That's pronounced Gridserve. Just but I've been driving and riding EVs for 22 years now, and from 2009 to 2019 I ran and founded a last mile delivery company in central London with a fully electric fleet, delivered over 10 million parcels in 10 years by emission free. So I've also got, if any of you got a coffee earlier, just above the machine over there at the end of the corridor is a Guinness World Record certificate from Webfleet, and it's got my name on it too, because I'm who snored?
No idea,
Refuse it.
mate. No idea.
But yeah, for my sins, courtesy of the work we did with Webfleet last year, Guinness World Record holder for long distance driving in an EV as well.
It's not the only thing that's long about you though, Sam, is it?
What? Is that how you? Is that really how you?
It's your hair, isn't it?
That's my hair. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
And you can see there is a man bun there, which you will probably never see finer anywhere in the world. And there is a relevance to this man bun, in that we are here to answer questions. So the obvious question is, why that man bun? But the questions that you have are far more important than the questions I have. So today we will have two ways of asking questions. There's this fabulous thing, microphone. Okay, so I'm going to lob that. Get that right to the chest. That's good stuff. You then get to ask a question. So if you have a question, pour in the air and you can ask a question and back. No question.
No question.
This is a dry run.
I can't throw very well though. So.
It's okay. I can catch really quickly. Right. Okay. So that is the way that in the room you can ask questions. But if you are a little bit nervous about doing that, we've got Slido. So Slido is a place where you can go. You can either go to slido.com, and this is for you at home. Pay attention, wakey, wakey, we can see you. Slido.com. If you go hashtag WebFleetFDL, you'll be able to ask questions there, which I will have fed to me by the power of science onto this blank screen, and I can ask the panel of experts your questions. Or alternatively, if you can see the QR code, you can scan the QR code, your question will go there, we can ask the experts, and they will tell us the answers. Is everybody happy, comfortable, warm enough, happy enough, had stuff to eat, and is in a good place? They're good, you know, aren't they? Yeah, excellent. Right, let's get cracking. Richard, let's start with you before we have any of the questions from the audience. The transition into decarbonising your fleet. Lots of fancy words. What does it mean? What is the transition to decarbonising your fleet? What's it about?
I'd like to give the obvious answer. It's about the planet. Let's face it. It starts with that,
Okay.
and taking our emissions out of the transport of and movement of goods and people. And for me, I mean, if I go back a couple of years, I think about, oh, it's got to be EV. You've got to switch to EV. And actually, you know, for most businesses, that's a really hard thing to do to start. And actually, what we can do though is tomorrow we could improve the MPG of the vehicles we've got. we could take a mile out of a trip for the vehicles we've got, and we start then affecting our footprint and our decarbonisation of the vehicles that we run.
I love you because you fell into a trap. Thank you kindly. So it's all about the environment, apparently. There are many reasons why we do this decarbonisation thing, and we've got some Slido things prepared. So, questions. So there are things that you can vote on with Slido. So I wonder if we can have our first poll. Is that possible? Earth calling poll people. Come in, poll people. Don't let me down now, Josh. Here we go. Right. So, should Sam Clarke get a haircut? So you can vote on that.
I vote yes.
If you're on Slido, you can vote on that and we can see instantly your responses. So now you want to play with Slido. Oh yeah, everybody's phone came out. Yeah, we can vote on that. Now there's a.
This is good, thank you.
That's healthy, isn't it? Eh?
No.
Oh, actually, you think he looks smart, but then
I think he looks
I can't believe this is happening this morning. This afternoon.
you could come to this end of the sofa where obviously the follically challenged live. So there we are. There we have it. 65% leave the 66% leave the poor man alone. Well, that's disappointing. I set that question and I'm hugely disappointed in the answer. 67, 65. Go on, keep it going down. So you get how it works. You can vote on questions. You can give your opinions. Now then,
There's a proper question now.
No, that was it. And we're off. Thank you very much. Goodbye. There's a second poll that we're going to do, which is going to seek to dig a little deeper into what Richard was talking about. Decarbonisation. What does it mean to you? So, what is the first word that comes into your head when we talk about fleet decarbonisation? And don't do the corporate thing. Whatever it is, say it. And it will come up in a word cloud as it is there. So let's see what it means to you. Yeah, good. And if you're playing this at home, good game, good game. You have to be my age to know who that was. This is fascinating. So difficult, challenging. There's some really challenging words in there, really negative, scary, pain. We focus on a lot of the positive stuff, you know, about improving air quality and making sure that you get the best use out of your fleet and all that kind of positive stuff. But there's a lot of negative in the room, which we're going to try and help you to unpick so that you feel less challenged by the time you leave today. Headaches. Oh, bless you. Somebody just said, oh, God. He's not decarbonised his fleet. Eric? Yeah. Eric! FUD. Everybody know what FUD is? Fear, uncertainty, and doubt. So the kinds of stuff that people feel, but also the myths that the press put out there. You know, you can't charge an electric vehicle in the rain. Okay, that's FUD. That's what people actually believe. So we're here to challenge those things, but it is hard. And Sam, you said that you've been doing this for 20 years. So you started at school. Is it hard? Is it really as challenging as our audience seem to think? And if not, what are the keys to success? How do you overcome that feeling that this is too hard for you?
I think there isn't a yes or no answer to that, John. I think in some respects, there is always lowest hanging fruit that we can all tap into and find. I think to Richard's point earlier, how do you make those incremental differences that start you on the journey of decarbonisation? And we've all got them. You know, we've all got those opportunities to try and to do those little wins. You know, many hands do like work. So if we all did a little bit of that, we could make a tremendous amount of difference just by everyone doing a little bit differently. And then as time moves on, it gets harder, right? It gets harder to go for the highest hanging fruit. You know, in my world, that's heavy goods vehicles at the moment and trying to electrify the entire heavy goods vehicle market, which is going to be quite difficult. But we've got to try and tackle those really, really chunky things, but that doesn't prevent us from doing the smaller things as well. And I'm just noticing there that I think you said one word and some people cheated and put two or three, but ultimately there was environment in the middle, but there's also emissions many times. So I think if you put all those things together, then the word environment would be even bigger. So it's heartening to see that that's what a large amount of people focused on, is the environment, because that's certainly why I do it these days. I think I was more commercially driven as a younger lad, but now I just want to leave the world in a better place than I found it, and hopefully a lot of people have also share that desire. So yeah, to do that, we've got to find the lowest hanging fruit first. What can you do? What are the incremental things you can do now, which are easy wins? And that starts us all on the journey, I think.
Okay, thank you. So let's understand the audience. So I've seen some big brand names in here. Ricardo, I've seen, wow, I mean, your operation is phenomenal. Who have we got in the audience? So there's a poll question, Josh, with a bit of luck, about where you are in your transition from running a bog standard fleet, petrol, diesel, with whatever kit you need, through to fully electric. And you'll be on a journey, somewhere on a spectrum. So how far are you on your electrification journey, do you think? This will help us to make sure that we pitch this right. So almost half of the audience are just starting. Wow. That's really brilliant. That's really awesome, because you're here. And Sam was talking about the journey. For me, the hardest part of that journey is the first mile, is the first step, is the first test drive. You know, once you get it, it becomes that little bit easier. But understanding that you're not going to get fired if you do this and it doesn't work out, it'll be okay. You can just test drive stuff. You can rent it for a week. You can send it back. It's not £70,000 for a van and you're stuck with it for the rest of your life. So 46% of people are just starting. 34% are picking up momentum, 10% halfway, 7% are doing the very gnarly ones, the difficult ones to do, and 3% are fully electric. Who's fully electric in here, please, if you wouldn't mind? So it must be somebody at home. So it's one of our online audience, or a number of online people are fully electric. That's phenomenal. That is superb. So it can be done. Good. Okay. So questions. How do you do it? It's not magic. I started in the Scottish Government doing this sort of stuff in 2010, when nobody else was doing electric vehicles. And I had to look up on Google, I kid you not, what an electric vehicle was, because I'd had an invitation from Nissan to drive something called the Leaf, whatever that was. And I was busy doing stuff around, you know, buses and making sure that they were nice and clean and everybody was happy, and trains and planes and ferries and all that sort of stuff. And Nissan said, come and drive an electric vehicle. We've got somebody coming in to see you. Righty. And I had to check what one was. I had no idea. That's where I started. Sam, where did you start?
With a two-wheeled motorbike in China in 2001, scared to death. But it was a good experience. But then in the van world, I had a van delivery company. I had no vans because they were all quadricycles. So same like you, I had to sort of work it out as I went along. But just to add your previous point, John, I think there's also a huge amount of learning out there now, right?
Yeah.
So you don't have to commit to something and take that risk. There's so much people like me and many others have already done some of the hard yards in working out how not to do it probably, but also how to do things and then learn from that. So there's an awful lot we can learn just from the wider marketplace in terms of best practice already out there now.
And somebody who's doing it every day, SJ, 80+% of your fleet is fully electric. How did you start that journey?
So I started with OVO in 2020. I had never experienced electric vehicles before that. So it was new to me as a fleet manager. OVO had a very small portion of the Nissan EMV 200s in their fleet. But quite soon after I started, we acquired another business and our fleet tripled overnight and they were all ICE vehicles. And then I was tasked with electrifying the entire fleet. So yeah, it was good. It was fun. I didn't know anything about electric vehicles back then. So Google, research, speak to OEMs, speak to other fleet managers. and you just start to pick things up as you go along.
Okay, George, you are from Iveco, van people, truck people. Why does it matter to you? Because you could just keep doing the same old, same old. You could just keep turning out petrol and diesel until the world says, no, we don't want those anymore. Or us tree huggers who just love the planet. You're all right. You're safe. You're cute, but you're not my type. Don't know where that came from. You could just keep doing what you're doing. You don't need to invest in electric vehicles, but you do. Why?
Well, mainly because we have to. And secondly, because there is this desire, not only in the room, but around the world, to clean up emissions. You need to be part of that journey. And that's what we're doing.
Okay. And really embracing it.
Absolutely.
So
Iveco have embraced it for a long time. I think I was doing some research. The first e-daily, as you could call it, was in 1986. I mean, it probably held together with Spit and Baler Band, but it was there.
86. Gee, Gary, electric vehicles.
Yep.
Well, what do they mean to Bridgestone and to Webfleet more broadly?
I mean, in terms of Bridgestone themselves, we're on a very much end-to-end journey, and the key to that is sustainability. And of course, we have what's called an E8 commitment, basically 8 words, all starting with E, like energy, efficiency, ecology. So we have a real strong commitment with regards to reducing emissions. And when I talk about end-to-end, it's with regards to raw materials. It's with regards to manufacturing. It's with regards to our logistics flow, and also with regards to the tyres and then end of life. So this is where we're looking at it end to end. If I can just focus on consumer, because, you know, when, of course, consumer cars, they're very much leading in terms of full EV. That with regards to consumer, we designed dedicated EV products, but it was only last year that we launched our Turanza 6 Enlighten product, which is EV ready, because we know, you know, the fleet in the end, because if you look at the, you know, the deadlines, 2035, all new cars are going to be EV, and that's 2040 for HGVs as well. So we're going to go zero tailpipe. So the thing is that our products now that we're launching, and of course we'll be launching our truck product, Duravis 3 Enlighten, at the end of the year, beginning of next, which is going to be EV ready, because that's the future. So that's what we're doing. Of course, linked to that is, you know, new compound development, new constructions, new designs. So everything is changing. So, you know, yeah, new tread patterns as well.
Really?
Yeah, sorry, yes. So it's, you know, I've been in the industry 33. It's so exciting at the moment, you know, for the designers, because it's so challenging and everything's being looked at. So, so it's we're on a journey.
It's important.
Yeah.
Good stuff. Right now, Webfleet, we're here. Do you know who Webfleet are? Do you know what they do? Do you know how they operate? How they help you make informed decisions? Yeah, there's a few nods, but not universally. Richard, what part do Webfleet play in helping those 49% of people who have the task to decarbonise? How do you help them do that?
Shall I get Kirby on this?
No.
No. Well, it's about insights, isn't it? And never before, sort of so my background is fleet. I've only been in the telematics industry for 4 years now, and I was sort of with a fleet funder and policy leasing business before that. And everything in that past world was with regard to commercial fleets was relatively generic in the language of average payload, average miles driven, etc., etc. And what we've really got to at this point now, when you're finding the low hanging fruit or you're looking at the more complex, it's line by line. And that insight has to be delivered at a vehicle level, at what it's doing, where it's going, where it's stopping, for how long it's stopping. You know, these are perhaps questions that never really had to be asked from a fleet manager's perspective before to get these vehicles transitioned. So that's the path of development we're on. You know, it's like, how do we help people transition? How do we give them the right data in the right format to make that decision making the least risky it possibly can be. Then how do we help them operate it? So how is that vehicle performing? You know, is it getting the expected efficiency out of the battery? You know, because actually small variances in efficiency can have huge detrimental impact on an operational availability of a vehicle. So it's dealing with all that. And then at the other end, the far end, is that optimization piece. So where you have potentially depots where capacity and headroom of energy is limited, actually what solutions can be delivered that help you manage the charging cycles, the availability of energy, the tariff, CO2 footprint, all the while ensuring that that vehicle is ready to do its job the next time it needs to go out.
And that's the key thing. And we're very guilty sometimes of just talking about electric vehicles because that's where we are headed. The reality for many of you is that you've got mixed fleets. You've got some petrol vehicles, you've got some diesel vehicles, you may have an electric vehicle, some are small, some are huge. It's a very, very mixed environment, but you can help, Richard, in terms of getting the best bang for every buck that's spent, whether that's a proper bang from an engine, internal combustion engine, or from operating electric vehicles. Your technology can be put into any vehicle to get efficiencies.
Yeah, absolutely. And if we look at even with diesel or petrol today, you know, we look at the scope emissions. So many of you in the audience here may now start having requirements from your customers to start producing CO2 reporting and delivering action plans to reduce the impact of that. You know, and there's three methodologies, one of which we deal with is distance-based. But of course, when you're dealing with distance-based reporting, you only have one metric that you can amend to impact your overall CO2 footprint. But if you start measuring fuel and you start measuring other things, you know, and delivering based on actual CO2 footprint at the tailpipe, then you open up the opportunities for some of the data that we provide, whether that's tire pressures, whether it's payload, you know, can you take that out, trip optimization, driver behavior, the range of incremental changes that you can make by the type of measurement that you're taking gives you much more flexibility to deliver improvements.
That's really helpful. Good. Okay, now we're going to go to questions. This is exciting times. Do we use the dice of death? Shall we? Right, who's brave? Who wants first dibs? Oh, come on now. Don't make me do it. Oh, yes, good man. Right, ready?
Thank you. What's your view on hydrogen?
How long have we got? Do you want the positive response to that, or do you want Sam? The quick response. Go, Sam.
I think I just heard you say when you threw the mic back, I get asked this question all the time, right? Is that what you said? Yeah. Me too. Like literally every single time I do one of these things, that's the question that comes up. My view, for what it's worth, is it's not a technology that we're putting any effort into whatsoever. It's incredibly inefficient to create the energy to put into the hydrogen vehicles. The infrastructure isn't there. If it was, it'd be massively prohibitive in terms of cost. Similar sort of things that we said about EVs, of course, a few years ago, but the EV infrastructure is here now and it's working. And that's the focus, is on being able to deliver vehicles that can do the job through battery electric. So we as a business, I've always said that we are technology agnostic. So we'll look at everything. But right now, it's not even anywhere near our agenda to look at hydrogen because it's just too expensive. The vehicles are not there in the time frame that we need to fix climate change. So for a multitude of reasons, we're focusing all our efforts on pure electric.
So let's go to an OEM just to see what your view is. Vehicle manufacturer, hydrogen, gearing up for it or not really bothered?
We are gearing up for it.
Ooh.
Only because at the larger weights, it probably makes more sense. I agree with Sam about the infrastructure in the UK. It's a little bit lacking at the moment. So, you know, if there at all, so it probably doesn't make any sense for anyone in this room. But we've got some test vehicles in with Budweiser in America running on hydrogen, and they seem to be performing pretty well. So watch this space, I suppose. It gets quite hard to electrify a large unit like that. Yeah, the hydrogen vehicles are running on electric anyway, so there is a little bit of a dual purpose there that these vehicles could fulfill on the larger routes and on larger payloads.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not an advocate for electric vehicles just because they're electric. If you think about it, hydrogen needs to be created. To do that, you take 2 wires, you put it into a cup of water, bigger, but it's a cup. You stick 2 wires in, you electrolyse the water, off come 2 products, oxygen and hydrogen. Hydrogen is captured, stored, and then used in vehicles, let's say. To do that process of turning what was renewable energy, let's say, so you generate through wind and solar energy, electricity, you then take it and turn it into hydrogen, you lose 40% of the energy. To put it under pressure and keep it, you lose another 10% of the energy value. And then to turn it back into electricity in a vehicle, you lose another 20%. You lose 70% of the energy that you started with to create hydrogen. Now, if you went to the shops with £1 and you went to your pocket and found 30 pence, you'd be pretty cheesed off. Why on earth would you do that and turn electricity into something else only to turn it back into electricity? It makes little sense. However, there is a use case in which I think hydrogen does work. We currently pay farmers who generate renewables, wind energy largely, from turbines. We pay them not to generate energy from wind turbines when we can't store it and we don't need it. And we pay them millions and millions of pounds. In that case, and that case only, if you could take that, what is wasted energy, capture that and store it, you'd save 30% of the renewables that were generated, which is better than just not having it at all and paying farmers to do bog all. It makes no sense to me whatsoever, which is why I didn't take the question, because I've had that hobby horse for a very long time. But it's inefficient. Why would you do that? It's madness. And if we can get battery technology to the point where it can deliver for businesses, and I tell you that there's an earth-moving vehicle in Australia that's 96 tons that's working on lithium-ion batteries, it can be done. Anything can be done. We put man on the moon. It can be done. It can be done today. You just have to have the need, the want, the desire, and the people. And that's the key for me, is the people.
I think, John, you said it can be done. It's being done. Battery electric vehicles are already here. It's just now we're slowly but surely improving on the ability to have greater density batteries in a smaller form factor. You know, we've seen trials with the Polestar 5, I think, that can charge in 10-20% in 10 minutes. We've also got 700 kilowatt hour plus batteries in trucks now. And you know, part of the work that I'm doing is looking at megawatt readiness for trucks. So that's putting in 200 or 300 miles of energy into a truck in 30 or 40 minutes.
So you're doing something called the EHGV project. It has many other names. It's a government-funded and business-funded initiative to deliver heavy goods vehicles, electric heavy goods vehicles, to the UK and the charging infrastructure with it.
Yeah, so this is the a government initiative through Innovate UK called the Zero Emission Infrastructure and Heavy Goods Vehicle Demonstrator, which was designed to try and catalyse the market for EHGVs in the UK, where even those are still price prohibitive because it's so much more expensive than the traditional internal combustion engine equivalent. But Gridserve, amongst 3 other businesses, were lucky enough to secure a share of £200 million of grant fund to put in excess of 14 EHGV hubs at motorway services around the UK, same number at depots, and then 140 trucks through a significant consortium of Royal Mail, Maritime, Kernagel, and many others, Amazon, some really big names that are going to put trucks on the road in the next few years, or in the next year, in fact, to really try and kickstart the market. And I think I was talking to Graham, I think it was you, maybe, about TCO earlier being the magic thing, the magic meter reader. And we're trying to make sure that we've got a TCO, total cost of ownership model, that works today, albeit with grant funding, but helps to prove the use case so that we can extrapolate that learning and hopefully encourage more people to put the harder, bigger trucks on the road in a sooner time frame that otherwise the market would dictate on its own. So it's quite a big project. It's never been done before of any scale. It's the largest fund Innovate's ever, second largest, sorry, that's Innovate's ever given to private enterprise, and it'll be the largest EHDV fleet as a consortium that's ever been. So it's a lot of work, but we're getting there, and it's exciting to be able to push the boundaries of the really tough stuff, the really hard to decarbonise areas. So we've tackled cars quite well, charging 200,000 of those every month. We're not charging any HDVs unless it's parked illegally at the moment. So we've got to create an infrastructure now to support the largest vehicles as well.
Let's get down and dirty with some numbers. SJ, question from Karen Ferguson. She says, based on the cost to charge an EV on public chargers, so from your fleet perspective, how's it beneficial for drivers to use an EV for a full day? It costs 14 pence per minute to charge, pence per mile to charge, and 15 pence per mile for diesel. So broadly similar costs. How does it cost in?
At OVO, we decided that we wanted to electrify our fleet. We didn't want to have the diesels and the petrols there anymore. So we recognised that the cost of having electric, can be more expensive and the initial outlay and everything. We do have to obviously.
Drinks are on you.
We do obviously have to use public charging facilities as well, but we've just costed that into our business model as well, because we have to get rid of the diesel vans at the end of the day. It's what we've signed up for.
Thank you, SJ. Now, Richard, you drive an electric vehicle.
Yep.
As your company vehicle.
Yeah.
How do the costs assimilate? Are they broadly the same for driving electric as they are for diesel or petrol?
Well, so let's put it this way. Mine isn't a company car, so I'm not.
My apologies.
It is a personal. We get a cash allowance. So this is on a PCH deal. So which I'm not benefiting from the government strategy for BIK from that, and it absolutely does stack up for a number of reasons. I do have a home charger, so not getting away from the fact that public charging is a lot more expensive than the home, but I do. It works out. I'm running mine at about 6 pence per mile actually when I'm charging from home on the cost of that, and I'm on an older tariff, so I'm not benefiting from Octopus's or EDF's new sort of overnight tariffs or anything else like that. I think where it's really starting to save me money, which is not always talked about in the pence per mile rate, is that I've currently sitting out there with 29,000 miles on the clock. It's not had a service, it doesn't need one, and I'm on my first set of tyres. So my running costs elsewhere for that vehicle are substantially different. And to Sam's point, which said TCO or total cost of ownership, it is so important to move away from looking at the purchase price of an asset and looking at its total running. And within that, possibly even around bringing in productivity, because again, the number of, as a commercial vehicle, the uptime, if mine is an example, the uptime and availability of that vehicle to do work in a given year is likely to be more than the diesel equivalent because of the lack of servicing needs and everything else.
You mentioned tyres, and Gary, you're the tyre expert. I know from my experience that because of regenerative braking and how the vehicle decelerates, there appears to be much less tyre wear and brake wear. So there's a lot less moving parts.
Yeah.
So your service, repair and maintenance costs can be significantly lower, anything up to 30-40% lower in an electric vehicle than in a standard internal combustion engine vehicle.
Yeah, if I can talk about tyre labelling, because with regards to tyre labelling, which looks at rolling resistance, it looks at wet grip performance, it looks at noise. But I just want to focus with regards to rolling resistance and wet grip. And of course, Bridgestone's a premium player. So we invest heavily in research and development. And the thing is that, when you're trying to produce a tyre that rolls easier, how are you going to stop it? And that's where all the research and development goes into pattern.
Stop it!
Also with regards to tread compound, also with regards to footprint shape. Now, the thing is that with regards to Bridgestone, we also want to protect safety as well with regards to stopping distances, both in dry and wet. It's very easy to produce a low rolling resistance tyre. One way in which you can do it quite easily is just take mass out. You reduce the mass, you reduce rolling resistance. But with regards to Bridgestone, it's about reducing rolling resistance, but maintaining safety in terms of braking and stopping distances. Now, the thing is that you have tyre labelling, you have A, which is the best, E, which is the worst. So you find with budget manufacturers, say from the Far East, where they can deliver A-rated in terms of rolling resistance, but it's going to be E in terms of braking. So the thing is that, you know, for us, it's about reducing rolling resistance, retaining, you know, safety in terms of high levels of wet performance. So the thing is that, you know, with Bridgestone products, you're looking at A grade for rolling resistance, B grade in terms of wet performance. But the other thing to consider as well is air pressure, because air pressure can destroy rolling resistance. And whether it's consumer or commercial, the management of air pressure is really poor, even in sort of, you know, bus transportation, coach transportation. And the thing is, it's the air inside the tyre that carries the load. It's not the tyre construction. And the thing is if you're, you know, running underinflated, whether it's internal combustion engine or EV, you're going to lose in terms of fuel, or you're going to lose energy. You're wasting it. So maintaining pressures is really important, and having a robust pressure maintenance program as well, because many a time we go to a commercial fleet and we ask them about who's managing their pressures. Sometimes they talk about the OEMs, you know, when they go for the 6 weekly checks. But when we speak to the OEMs, they say, well, we check and we tick the box, but we don't adjust because we don't know what pressures. So the thing is, it's really important for fleets, you know, and if you're running EVs, you know, and you want to protect that range, you really need to be, you know, monitoring your pressures and making sure that, you know, when you have a pressure alert, you address it as soon as possible.
Yeah. One of the things that you've all touched on is downtime and the amount of time that vehicles are off the road because of those maintenance issues, and also for charging. You know, the vehicle's going to have to be parked for 30 minutes, 40 minutes to charge. Does that, you're out in the business world all day, every day with your key accounts. Are those the things which are stopping people going to Iveco daily, that they're saying, oh, well, you know, we've got to charge for 40 minutes at a time, which is downtime that we can't use. We're not delivering. We're not doing the job that we're being paid to do.
It's one of many things. I mean, ultimately, we've got a really robust program where we can talk to people about the use case that they've got, talk about the daily mileage, talk about the usage frequency. The daily's got an internal EPTO for low and high generation. So some units require to run a fridge or some other form of hydraulic equipment, whatever it is, that's also factored into that calculation. And at the bottom, we can spit out a pretty accurate number of what that vehicle can do. So it's just about engaging with your OEM. I don't think that it would be exclusive to us.
No.
So it's just looking at your operation, finding a candidate, and then working with your OEM, preferably Iveco, to get the vehicle under you that's going to, I like that, that's going to, I had to, didn't I? That's going to work for you. And ultimately, only we can advise, but only the end user really knows what's right for them in terms of their operation. So, yeah.
Okay, we got a choice. I can get the cube of death, or I can take another online question. Anybody got a burning cube of death question? Yes, right, okay. Do we go long range? Let's go long range. Oh, so close to the try. Okay.
Just in relation to what's just been said, and particularly in relation to LCVs, there's a lot of talk about what the range is, but usually that's based on an empty vehicle.
Yeah.
And I wonder how close we are to getting much better data for vehicles which are half full, or where it's in winter and the aircon's on and the wipers are going and all of that.
Okay, so the question was, for those at home, how close are we to getting real world data from manufacturers about how a vehicle operates, whether it's got no load, whether it's got half a load, full load, whether it's got ancillary equipment on it? Is that something that we're working on? WLTP took us in the right direction.
WLTP definitely did take us in the right direction, but it's only at 50% payload, which obviously we're going to work with someone like yourself to work out what your full payload is and whether the vehicle's appropriate. when we get higher up the weight range, WLTP no longer applies. So we actually tested our vehicles with 100% payload. So we're pretty confident that our numbers are spot on.
Any comeback? Anybody else sick to the back teeth of manufacturers telling us that it will go 280 miles and it doesn't? Yes. Have some of that.
I'll tell the story of my last place. So we were a just-in-time delivery company. We, as part of a trial, took on a Merc Vito with a number plate with a marked up range at 154 if that was full charge. Aircon blowers on took you to 124 as the immediate, and that was unladen. We specialise in last minute, long range type deliveries. I took that vehicle in on 13 months for its battery service on 898 miles.
Okay, so everybody hated it and it just wasn't used. It was a huge cost to you and a pain in the backside that you just want to get rid of.
It was a car park space I lost.
Yeah, I understand that. Right, okay. Come on, panel of experts. What's the response to that? Because that's real world and we've got people experiencing this. Sam, you look itching to speak.
I was just thinking the previous question actually, and not wishing to go on about it again, John, but the world record that we did with Webfleet was the extreme case of range in terms of we took a van that had a WLTP figure of 190 miles and did over 311 in it. And that was in very controlled environment, albeit out in the public domain with no payload whatsoever. But it just proved how far you could go on the vehicle if you were really, really efficient. And that was, we put 50 miles on the previous record, which was with a van with twice the battery capacity of the one that we had. So on that extreme, you can go a long way. I think the answer to that question is do it yourself. You can read up and obviously do lots of understanding of literature in terms of what these vehicles can really do, but put it in your own world, give it a test and see whether it can do what you want it to do, because you could have it fully laden on one day and it's hot sunshine and dry, and you could have it fully laden on the next day and it's cold and rain, and you'll get a different result. So there are far too many variables, and that's why WLTP is only a guideline. I often call it stands for way less than planned in my head, because in reality they will go further than that. But it's in your own environment, and you've got to know what those tolerances are and really understand it. And then once you know what the tolerances are in a cold winter rainy day versus a hot sunny day, and that's the range. Then my 2 cars ago, my Tesla Model 3 in the winter was 150 mile range. In the summer, it was 250. It was a huge difference depending on how I drove it and the climate and the conditions. So it's just understanding those parameters. And then when you know what they are, you can work with it. Oh, here we go.
Has that helped? Because I get a sense that Sam is absolutely right in what he says, but that's not going to help you. You're not a world record holder and you're not interested in being a world record holder. You've got a business to run.
Yep.
And stuff to do. It might be. Fair play, George.
Shut him down.
Fair
I was
play.
gonna, if it helps, would you like my world record?
Are you a world record holder?
I don't know if I still am. I was part of the group of people back in the mid-80s who ate the world's longest sausage in London.
To be fair, that's way better than mine.
Yeah. Pipe down, you. Okay, good effort.
You.
How long was that sausage?
It was over a mile.
We got to move on. Wow. So much is going through my really weird brain right now.
In terms of the actual question, however, the challenge comes from things like driver aids that people have put into vehicles that they think is a good idea, and it's not, because everyone in here knows drivers. So with that vehicle in particular, you've got a minus mode, which can help with the efficiency on the driving, but you also, on the other side of the wheel, have a plus plus, and the driver will go to plus plus. And plus plus takes you 125 on a wet rainy day down to about 90 effective. It's about trying to educate them that if they want to get home that day, it needs to be in the minus driving style.
Absolutely. Go, George. then we'll go to SJ, I think, for some
I mean,
more.
You're right. Vehicles have got a fast pedal, and these electric vehicles are a little bit addictive in terms of what they can do. But we've actually put a facility in ours where, as a fleet manager, you can lock the vehicle down and force it into an eco mode. You can deactivate parts of that in its charging cycle at night time or whatever you want to do to make sure that drivers don't get halfway around the round and decide they want to be, I was going to say Michael Schumacher, but maybe Max Verstappen is a better candidate these days. But yeah, so we understand that the desire is there from the driver. And back to your earlier comment about your eVito, when was that?
So that came onto fleet in June 20. What are we in now? Would have been June 22.
Yeah.
So it would have been a Gen 1.
Yeah. So bizarrely, in between what we would class as Gen 1 and Gen 2 EVs, there's been a sea change of difference in there. Mercedes were brave enough to really put their head out the door the first time, and there was some solutions which that vehicle fitted, but obviously it didn't fit for a just-in-time delivery solution at that moment.
SJ, what's your experience of driver feedback on vehicles and their usefulness in the workplace? Does it take some education to help them to understand how to get the best from the vehicle?
It does. I also know drivers. I've heard everything. It is an educational piece with them. I'm not going to lie. You need to give them the tools for them to make the right choices. I've spoken to quite a few OEMs and asked them why it doesn't default into eco mode the minute they start the vehicle, because that would be ideal, right? You know, you don't have to then sit there and tell them, put it in eco, don't put it in sports. There's lots of things you can do to help them. Little things like in-cab stickers, right? So we all have the no smoking ones. We have the height restrictions and all that stuff. What about special in-cab stickers for electric vehicles? Reminding them, put them in eco mode, you know, reminding them, you know, like how long it'll take to charge the battery based on X percentage. So they're aware of it. Use the data. You know, we're with Webfleet. We look at Webfleet data. So when, you know, a driver comes to us and says, you know, barely got 100 miles out of that, we can see the data. We can see exactly what they're doing. Then we can have the coaching sessions with them. We can remind them to put it into eco mode. And fact sheets, FAQs, we issue them prior to the vehicles being delivered. We then issue them once they've had the vehicle delivered. We remind them afterwards. So just like you would remind drivers around winter safety, remind them every now and again to pop it into eco mode. And, you know, you're not saying they can't have it, the aircon on, just, you know, make sure they have it on because they really need it and they're not having it on all day, every day. You need the drivers on board. And once you've got that, once you've got a few, they can go and spread the word. And before you know it, you could have an electric fleet like us.
Okay, right. Sam, are you going again?
Can I? Am I allowed?
Cheeky boy.
I just wanted to give another quick example from my world of fleet when I ran my own logistics company. And we had a thing that we worked on with our insurance broker on, which was really integral with telematics, was a thing we called the Joseph report. And it was Joseph reports were multicolored. And the best way to look at it was to pin it on the wall, walk to the other side of the room and look at it from a distance. And what it effectively did was a blended RAG report, red, amber, green, of drivers' performance on a weekly basis and for the key metrics that determine whether they were deemed a good driver or not. So whether they were using hard acceleration, whether they were overspeeding, all those kind of things. And not only did we see trends of who were the worst drivers and who were the best drivers, but we also saw trends throughout week on week. So even the best guys sometimes dipped, and you could see it in the colour. And think, well, you know, when we'd ask them, you know, you're one of the best drivers, but you're having something wrong. Are you okay? Is anyone at home? You know, whatever it might be, just to get behavioural patterns going. So we were understanding the driver's performance better, even the best and the worst drivers, but it gamified it a little bit and it made us realize and be able to see exactly what these trends were without kicking the worst all the time, but just giving them an opportunity to see why there was a trend and how we could get it better. So also, and it really worked. So we had this really was multicolored and it was a complete spectrum of reds, greens and ambers. By the time we finished, there was a very clear difference sweep of green where we always had the worst drivers. There's always behavioral patterns, but ultimately over the course of a year, it improved our efficiency, it improved the range of the vehicles, it dropped our safety down, they had less accidents, there was less damage on the vehicles. So the net result of all of those things saved me fortune, hundreds of thousands probably, in vehicle damages alone, just because we got into a pattern of educating the drivers of the best way to drive and why they were driving that way. So there are methods and ways of doing it. But not because I'm here, but telematics is the key. If you haven't got that data, you can't work it out.
Gary.
Yeah, just to say.
Oh,
Testing. Yeah, sorry. So just to say with regards to drivers, because we've got a highway product, which is for long distance driving, which is known as a Copia 3. But when we were developing a Copia 2 and I was involved in all the prototype testing, we were testing it at a fleet number of trucks, and we couldn't understand why we weren't making the fuel savings on what is classically a low rolling resistance product. And we were up at the fleet, and we're in a canteen, and we noticed on the notice board driver scores from A to E. And we went into the fleet office with regards to the vehicle registrations, and we got them to give us the ratings of the drivers that have been driving those vehicles. No great surprise that it was the worst drivers that were not delivering any fuel saving. So, with regards to, driver training, it's essential, it's a must, but also monitoring as well. And, that education and that monitoring and the rewarding is really critical if you want to make those savings, whether it's, diesel or electric.
you're absolutely bang on. Now then, I fell into a trap. The trap was, I assumed that nobody else other than Sam was the Guinness World Record holder, and I apologise humbly for that. Are there any others in the room? Anybody else? No? Okay, I'm going to personal best. 2 Guinness World Record holders in one day. Yes, today has been a good day. Great. Okay, so we've got a question from Sarah Sloman, my colleague on the EV Cafe, but also from Paythrough. And she wants to know about how fleet drivers pay for their charges. So they're out and they need a charge, and it's for a particular network. We all know you need 100 different ways of getting a charge. There are RFID cards, apps, various ways you can use your debit, credit card. But we happen to have a couple of experts from Powell here today. Now, Powell, oh, go on, Pam.
They're quite hard to spot. The one's the back. Can you see them there?
I'm just surprised I caught it.
We're in camouflage, can't see us.
We are still some way away from the nirvana, which is drive into a space, machine recognises my registration number, knows who I am, charges my bank account, I can just plug in and off I go.
Yeah.
How far away are we from
I
that?
actually don't think we're that far away at all. We've already developed it. We're just waiting for the rest of the cars and the charge points to catch up with us. So
Okay.
people could do that.
So,
But I think what is really important is to recognise how far we've come, because people always, the old story is the charging infrastructure isn't there. Like, we have over 50% of all of the charge points in the UK, and you're never more than 5 miles away from a Powell-enabled charger. So, like, if we had the whole thing, it'd be every 2.5 miles, which is crazy. So, on average, when you think about it, we've come such a long way. So, the infrastructure not being there for cars, yes.
oh yeah.
Everyone's got to have the power. But I think for cars, it's much easier. Now, our next focus is obviously going to be vans and trucks. And that's very much what we're focused on at the moment. So we're having the card, obviously, technology is that's our bread and butter. That's where we started. So on our app, we've put in a load of features to make public accessible charging easier. Locating, finding the right speed, the right connector type. Is it available? How much is it going to cost? So for us, that was really important. The driving the car part of it is I would say pretty much sorted now. Now we need to focus on doing vans and trucks, and that is our next mission.
Okay. So when you're going to a network and you cover half of all of the rapids in the UK,
We've
is that
got
right?
over 75% of all of the rapid chargers in the UK.
You just rock up, use your card, it recognises who you are, and as long as it's one of the power networks,
Yeah.
then you can just plug in, it will all be charged to you in one place. So
Yeah.
there's a central bill which comes in for me that says I've had all these charges in this month and it's all taken care of, and it makes it nice and simple.
Yeah, exactly. So we've built it so when you walk up and you tap your card, it just works. All of that then gets fed back to us, but also it gets fed into our live fleet manager dashboard. So all of our fleet managers are able to get all of the insights they need, all of that live data as it's happening. So they get to see all of the information they need as well and be able to pull all of the reports and everything for it. And so with the billing, then it's just one bill a month. That's it. With all of your data, everything is stored for you. You don't need to do any of that.
Now, that's for public charging. What happens with home charging? Because a lot of people take home their vehicle, their van, they take it home at night. They don't have off-street parking. That's a problem.
Yeah.
How do we get around that? Any insights from you, or do we go to a panel?
Yeah, so we've launched Power Reimburse.
Oh,
We built it for the Royal Mail. We've been building it for the last 2 years. They're already using it. And so what it does is it takes into account home, public and depot charging. We don't use home charging data for multiple reasons, but let's just say, for example, because of or the internet dropping. So that part of information may not be recorded. So we took it from a completely different angle. It had to be accurate and auditable because they're the Royal Mail. So hello, it had to be done, and they wanted it done the right way for all of their drivers. It had to include every single driver. And that's why it couldn't be like connected to cars or connected to chargers or any of that sort of information. So we took a completely different approach in it, and that's why it took so long to build and perfect. And so that's the way we've done it currently.
so Power have got the power. Other solutions to this challenge. So SJ, what do you do at OVO Energy?
So we obviously give all of our drivers, sadly not with Power, so sorry, we're with All Star. We give our drivers the All Star card, but we also give them BP. And way back in 2020, before cards, had such a huge range on them like they do today, we actually provided them with 4 different accounts. So we had Shell, BP, All Star and Instavolt, and the drivers had to remember all of them and which one to use at which place. But we opened it all up because you can't restrict with an electric vehicle, I don't believe. ICE vehicles, you tell them to go to the supermarkets for the cheaper fill and things like that. But electrics, you've got to have a different mindset. So you open up the whole networks for them. So you give them every opportunity.
Fabulous. Now, we spoke about driver behaviour earlier, and Sarah Sloman has asked another question. Cheeky Sarah Sloman at home. Driver behaviour. And she says, how much can improving driver behaviour save you in your transport costs? Richard?
Well, to your point earlier about the dashboard, we've got that ranking. A lot of our customers are starting to put these things up in nobody likes to be bottom of the list. You don't have to penalise them, but we've got our own league tables that we've got going on. I was just saying to add to that, the other thing that'll be here with us before the end of this year, to support fleet managers, is more direct driver intervention with EVs. So having the right messages. So at the moment, most of you might be familiar, there's always idling data, there's harsh braking, harsh steering, etc., etc. Well, some of the metrics that affect the efficiency of a vehicle in an EV need to be slightly different. So we're looking at turn the aircon off, put it in eco mode, stop accelerating so quickly. So these are the sorts of new metrics that you'll see data providers in an EV world looking to bring forward to support you. We have one customer to that point who did the education piece, does what SJ does as well, and they've achieved a 17.5% increase in range through their driver education program from where they started when the vehicles were first handed out. It's a really incredible achievement, and it comes back to the way you engage with the driver, how you coach them, because this is new technologies that they are asking them to drive. If somebody's had a driving license for 30 years, if they've not had any points, they've likely not had any coaching, and all of a sudden you're asking them to drive a piece of technological equipment. So they took that on board, and they did have some really difficult start. And they were the first ones to put their hands up and say, we got it wrong when we brought them in. But they've learned from that, and they've adjusted a number of things, and now their future rollouts will be that much better for actually taking one on the chin, in effect, and learning from it and coaching the drivers.
Good stuff. Thank you. Now, there's a wonderful question from an award-winning marketing manager for Webfleet, Alain Castle, named after Alain Prost, interestingly enough, the Formula One racing driver, but often called Alan. Or Alan? All right, mate. Great question. SJ, how much time do you invest in driver training to achieve the sorts of results that Richard speaks of, the 17% efficiency?
We spend a lot of time coaching and educating drivers, and I'd like to think quite often they don't know we're even doing it. We don't sit them in a classroom. We don't make them sit endless e-learning modules or anything like that, although we do have e-learning modules. But even things like the e-learning modules, we use Drive Tech, and we had the modules built purposely for us because all the videos I saw online were all car-based. A driver is not going to engage with a car, electric or otherwise. So we had our own vans, we filmed it all. They know about the etiquette of driving, how to change it, how to maximise their range. But yeah, coaching them in every little way that you can, whether that's one-to-one meetings, team meetings, when they have their team meetings, go along, just put a couple of slides up and just remind them or ask them questions as well. You'll get a lot back from the drivers. Hear them. What they feel is very valid. You know, range anxiety, all that things, it's real to people, and you have to take it on board. You have to address that with them. And sometimes it'll be in small groups and sometimes one-to-one, but you will get there with them. And if they know that you're listening to them, taking them seriously, they're going to listen to what you have to say, and their peers and their line managers and everyone there, and just making sure everyone's there to support each other.
Isn't she fabulous? Oh, I just love you. Right. You choose. Oh, rude. Right. Okay. Ryan Long asked the question, what, in your opinion, is the biggest blocker to the decarbonisation of fleet? If we can keep it neat and tidy, maybe 20 seconds each, biggest blocker. Let's start with you. Come on, George.
It's a bloody good question.
Thank you, Ryan.
The biggest blocker.
Microphone.
The biggest blocker, I suppose right now, it's just individuals out there at the moment that are resisting the temptation to try, or at least part in some way, electrify or find an alternative fuel solution to the vehicles that they've got. Even if it's just one, you're on the road.
Right. So it's people. It's a people issue.
It's a very generic answer, I know, but we're all guilty of it in some way along the way.
Okay, Gary.
Yeah, good question. I think for myself, it's air pressure. I mentioned before that, you know, monitoring air pressure, maintaining air pressure is not the best, whether it's consumer or commercial. Obviously now with regards to HGV and starting from July of this year, TPMS has now become standard fit. But the thing is TPMS telling you that you've got an issue is one thing. It's about obviously addressing that issue. And I think, you know, if you're running underinflated, then it's going to impact on your fuel or your range. And, you know, that could block, you know, a decision to actually expand on your EV fleet. So, yeah, for me, within the tyre industry, it's maintaining air pressure.
If you look at my spare tyre, I'm definitely not underinflated. Thank you for that. Come on in, Richard.
For me, I think we need to remove what we're trying to do here from the political arena.
Yeah.
I think the inconsistency of messaging that we receive makes it really hard as fleet decision makers to know that if they're making a decision today, does that still work for me tomorrow, and does it play out? So I'd like to see a little bit more for vans and trucks. Actually, I feel like cars got a lot quicker than perhaps the vans did, from the infrastructure and knowing where to park them and support and everything else. So I'd like that to be a bit different going forward.
Cool. Okay. Biggest blocker, SJ?
Thanks, Ryan. I'm going to bring this a little bit more local rather than making it for such a big thing. I want to say that for fleet managers and fleet owners out there, a blocker that you may be facing is around engagement with your business, senior leadership teams, things like that. I just wanted to say that don't see that as a blocker, because one thing I've learned is that the transition to electric or decarbonisation for a fleet manager it's not your challenge. It's not just purely on you. It is the whole company's challenge. So make sure that everybody is aware that, you know, if you're going to go down this journey, that don't let them to be a blocker. Take them on the journey with you, that it's a collective thing.
Thank you. And Sam?
It's always hard to go last on those sort of questions.
That's just why I left you till the last.
Yeah, thanks a bunch. I was going to say, and I think it still stands true, is perceived cost or even perception, actually. I think on a more macro level, there's a lot of disinformation, as Richard mentioned. We've just got to learn what the art of the possible is. I mean, if everything was cheap as chips and dead easy, then we'd all be doing it already. But there is a cost implication to all of this. And we've got to look at costs in a different way. We've got to look at the long-term investment. And we're all doing it for the right reasons. We've got to do it for the sake of the planet and the environment. That's ultimately the headline requirement for us all. And I think we're all in agreement, as per that first poll suggested, a one-off. So we've got to find a way. Oh yeah, that was the first one. But yeah, so we've got to understand the challenge and make sure that people understand it properly, because there is so much Nigel Farage-esque misinformation out there that we've got to try and debunk. It doesn't mean that it's easy. It doesn't mean that it's a perfect world. EVs aren't right for everybody right now. Maybe hydrogen will work in certain isolated cases. Maybe that is the case, but there's lots and lots of big, chunky, low-hanging fruit. And so the biggest blocker, I think, is perception. We've got to understand what the real world looks like, rather than just assume that it's all too hard basket, because it isn't. There's too many people proving that wrong to suggest that it is the future. We just got to, as a collective, make it work.
Absolutely right. Oh, I thought you wanted to ask a question then. If you move it, it's like being at an auction, you know, if you scratch your head, you get into asking a question. Anybody else? Yes, right. Okay, here we go. Was a good catch. It was a dreadful throw. Apologise.
A question from me is around when we make decisions about vehicles, we typically take them on a lease of maybe 4 or 5 years. If we look how the cars have developed over the last 4 or 5 years, what we would have bought back 5 years ago wouldn't be quite as good or as relevant now. Is there any recommendations for navigating and making sure that we make the right decisions as we progress, bearing in mind that we expect technology to make vans and everything else improve over the next few years?
Brilliant question. So if you invest now, you tie yourself into a deal for 4 to 5 years for a leasing company, or indeed if you pay a capital investment, you know, you're paying a chunk of money. In 2-3 years' time, technology has changed, and you may be sitting with a vehicle which still has a good residual value, but can only deliver half of what the more modern vehicles can deliver. Where do we go with that one? SJ, you have to make that decision every single day, I suspect.
I did. I had to make this decision kind of 3 years ago. There's someone in the audience who I've had many conversation with around vans and what we do with them. We took a slightly different approach. So yes, you're right, absolutely. ICE vehicles, 5 years. Yeah, it's done. Everyone's known that. Everyone's done that for years. We went slightly different with our electric vans. We put them on a 3-year deal. I know, controversial. Did that with the purpose that, like I said, when I first started OVO, we had the Nissan EV200s. They were great at the time. New technology was coming. We then switched to the Vivaro E. Cars, yeah, they move in 3-year cycles, right? Most of the time. And we know that vans are second best, and they always get the technology afterwards. We wanted to free ourselves open to not getting tied in to old technology for 4 or 5 years. So what I can say on that is, you know, we're on that journey. So we're about to go through our next cycle of electric vehicles, is to reach out to other fleet managers and see what they've done and what have they learned. And hopefully the technology will keep getting better.
Brilliant. Thank you. George, you got anything to add?
Yeah. As we get further into the future on this journey of EV, vehicles are becoming more like mobile phones. So you kind of, yes, you're going to jump in on a point with that vehicle, but as long as it fulfills the mission that you need it to do at that moment, and has a good enough battery warranty and has the freedom of flow of EV power in the vehicle, that you can have a little bit of room on top to give you that wriggle room and put that range anxiety to one side, as long as that ticks all your boxes, it's the right vehicle for you. Admittedly, yes, there's going to be new stuff coming down the pipeline which will make your life easier, but if you're going to jump on, I guess if it ticks the box, jump on. I do actually think the shorter cycle is incredibly brave, and if you can find a way to make that monthly, if you buy them on lease, work for you, I think that would be good, because the RV is going to be higher and you're going to be able to keep that rotation of vehicles at a better rate for you.
Would it be right in thinking that companies are so keen for you to try their product that as fleet managers, it's relatively easy to say to a business development person, an account manager, I want to try this vehicle. I want to try it for a period of time to understand how it operates in my scenario so that you can get that first drive, that first go at an electric vehicle. SJ, is that what you do?
Yeah. Yeah, so when we were looking at what our next van was going to be, we demoed the Vivari. We put those vehicles in places where the driver said, can't have them. No, can't possibly have them. And in Fleet, we were, well, we're going to try it for you. We failed in Devon and Cornwall, absolutely failed. We're going back 2 years now. The infrastructure wasn't there. We thought that, you know, it could be done. It stayed on their drive for a week. But there were other areas and other pockets of the UK where it did work. And just having those demos there so they can touch it, they can feel it, they can experience it. It's nothing scary. It's not going to bite them or anything like that. But you know what? It is just like their transit. It made the world of difference to them. And then people were then openly coming to us and saying, do you know what? That wasn't so bad. It wasn't really bad. So yeah, let me take one. Let me try it. I know it works. So yeah, absolutely. Reach out to OEMs, get demos, try lots of different ones, move them around the country or get them in different pockets as well, because not every, you know, driver is the same and not every area is going to have the same charge point infrastructure and things like that. So absolutely try before you buy.
Yeah, you'd be up for that?
Yeah, definitely.
In Iveco e-daily for a while?
Every dealer's got an e-daily demo ready to rock and roll, and we've got some for the larger fleets as well to cover that off. So, you know, please just get in contact with us or your local dealer and we can make that happen.
And typically, how long should you have an EV for in your fleet to prove the case? It's not a day, is it? It's not a couple of days. You need to have it in for a few weeks to really understand how it's going to perform for you and how the drivers will develop their driving style to make the best use of it. How long would you recommend, SJ? Sorry, Sam, I'll come to you in a sec.
As long as you can, really, as long as no OEM's willing to give it to you for.
So just ask. Just ask the question.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And the feedback that we got from the guys who demoed them for us was valuable. You know, it was their feedback which helped basically build our FAQs to other drivers. It wasn't us in Fleet sat there thinking, well, these are the questions I think you're going to ask. It's actually the questions what we were asked and fed back to us that we then pushed out to others. But yeah, oh my God. Just ask OEMs and take them as long as possible.
And Rich, do you have relationships with OEMs as well, where you're able to help facilitate that? Sorry, I am coming to you, Sam. I promise. Maybe.
Put his nose out of joint, hasn't it?
So, do you have relationships with leasing companies and with OEMs so that you can help make introductions to people that you support in that transition?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I mean, everybody knows that if they use Webfleet here, that, you know, a traditional route is a black box, you know, behind the dash. But we absolutely have the OEM relationships. There's a lot of talk around the connected vehicle now, and as an organisation, we have to work towards how we acquire that data. So we do have those OEM relationships, and Jason's in the room somewhere as well, is building up the relationships with the lease codes, because again, the network of suppliers and the ecosystem in which this transition is taking place is far broader than it's ever been before, you know, in terms of the work that perhaps a fleet manager has to consider in terms of maybe the ground being dug up. Well, they've never done that before, you know. So I think it's incumbent on us as suppliers to the industry to be, we talk about it on the EV Cafe about collaboration, right? Well, true collaboration is actually, if you come to me, can I introduce you to this person, and this person? Can I help solve your problems to remove some of the Google searches you might have to do, you know?
And that's why the relationship with you, Gary, is so important. Sam, I'll come to you in just a second. It's so important. I know. I can do this all day.
That's on purpose.
Because that relationship is symbiotic. There's a reason why Bridgestone own Webfleet. You work very closely together in the same kind of pool sometimes, but you're sharing connections, networks, knowledge out into fleets.
Yeah, because it's all about big data. And the thing is that, you know, when we're developing our new products, you know, in the past, all we had was tread depth and that was it. But now we can see, you know, in terms of where the vehicle has been, what speeds, what G-forces, what accelerations, and that helps us produce, a premium product. So, and the thing is that, the future is about being connected as well. So, we are using a lot of Webfleet data in our designs today, and we're just going to expand on that. But one thing, if I may, I just want to say with regards to, talking about length of vehicles and all the rest of it. In terms of ownership.
Sausage.
We're talking about replacement tyres, because the thing is tyres wear out. But the thing is that with regards to OE, they spend a lot of time making sure, tyres in terms of their rolling resistance or wet performance achieve their targets. And the thing is, if you're going to replace tyres, please look at the tyre labelling at an OE level and replace. And generally, you're looking at, premium product. Yeah. Of course, working for Bridgestone, I would always suggest, go and have a look there. But the thing is that, if you buy cheap Chinese, did I say that? But the thing is if you do, it can impact negatively on your range, and it can completely disrupt your business. And you're thinking, I'm buying cheap, but it's all about total cost of ownership. And the thing is that, so yeah, when you're looking to replace, look at the tyre labelling, purchase the same in terms of both rolling resistance and wet performance. And in that way, you keep the performance, you keep the range, you keep the safety. So yeah, that's all I wanted to say.
Is there anybody else in the room who'd like to speak? Otherwise, I'm going to have to speak to Sam. Darn. Sam.
Yeah, no comment.
Funny boy.
What was the question? I remember now. Yeah, the George's comment about the mobile phone's a good one. I like that. And just to extend them, I treated myself to an iPhone 15. I'd love an iPhone 20, but that's 5 years away. So, I'll work with the technology I've got today, make it work, and then we can look to replace, right? And I solved this problem by accident when I had 120 odd vans, I suppose, at my peak. At the beginning of that journey, I couldn't even lease a vehicle because the electric vans were so alien, the leasing companies wouldn't touch me. So I ended up owning a few, not suggesting you should own a few, but I ended up owning a few. I ended up having a few that were being given to me to try. And then I had a number of different leases with different providers at different times. So what that meant was, and how I ended up solving the problem by accident, was I had a very iterative process of things were changing all the time. So it wasn't a case of, do I commit to all these vehicles over 5 years and then worry about it and feel like I'm going to get left behind for 5 years? Because there was always a stepped approach, so that no two routes are very rarely the same. So you'd be able to move things around and continually evolve that cycle of technology. It's not about one lump, wait 5 years, then another one. Just if you do it in stepped process, then you've always got that malleability, I think that's the word, to change things as you go, to adapt to the scenarios of your business.
Be flexible
in
your approach.
I'll shut up now. Okay,
we've got a choice to make. I can go either way. I don't care. I just don't care. You laughed. Do you have a good... Anybody got a question? Yes. Good man.
Gary, about tyres. Any evidence that EVs go through tyres more quickly than internal combustion vehicles?
Yeah.
Great question.
Looking at consumer, because as tyre manufacturers, we work with the OEMs, and we work in partnership, but sometimes there's battles. If you look at consumer, for example, the OE manufacturers could address the sort of management system of the vehicle so that it could suppress the acceleration. So it doesn't matter how hard you press the pedal, you're not going to go any faster. And in fact, in most cars now, you've got like eco mode or something like that, or sport. So, and the thing is on the consumer, people enjoy acceleration, so they don't really wish to, manage that. They leave it up to the customer to do that. With regards to commercial, it's a completely different ballgame, because you could potentially manage, the acceleration, because, it doesn't matter, what sort of tyre product you have fitted. If you accelerate fast, you're going to generate more wear. Now, the thing is, you've already said that, in terms of an OE situation, you can lock that down as a business so that, you don't have those severe sort of acceleration episodes. I did a study recently. It was an 18-month study. It was on passenger bus, and it was against EV and ICE, internal combustion engine. And we were all expecting to find that with regards to the EVs, they would have the faster wear rate, and it wasn't the case. And what we found, and I don't know with regards to people that are running fleets here, that if they buy new vehicles, they don't necessarily give it to the worst driver, they give it to the best driver. And what we found, it was the mindset of the driver that he's got a new vehicle and he's driving it, with care and attention. And in fact, the tyre performance on the EV was better than that and against an internal combustion engine. So the thing is that there's so many factors with regards to, tread wear. It's with regards to the accelerations. It's with regards to your pressure maintenance, your footprint shape. It's with regards to load. So the thing is, so many different variables that it's really, difficult to pin down. But, whether it's car tyres or truck tyres, if you drive them aggressively, you're going to wear them out faster. So, and we do see on the consumer side, because they're not managing, the accelerations, that we do see, tread life diminish. But the thing is that us in a tyre industry, we talk about sustainability, we talk about end to end. One of those things is also, retaining tread life and not losing tread life. And we're doing a lot of work with things like nanopro technology, with like tandem mixing, bringing in hybrid silicas, to extend, the life of the tyre. Like I say, with regards to the Turanza 6 Enlighten, we made a 30% improvement in wear life. But so we're on that journey, a bit like batteries, I suppose, with regards to trying to extend the range. But, with regards to a tyre, if you want to wear it out fast, you can very, very quickly. So, the thing is, it's about managing your drivers, or in your own private driving, just, take care with regards to the tyres. And if you do, then, they'll deliver a good life.
Love that. It's a new tagline for Bridgestone, on the journey. Love that. Cecilia Ollie from online says, BBC Sliced Bread on Radio 4 last Thursday analysed tyres very effectively. I think you and I are going to be tuning into that and finding that. Okay, James Parkinson asks, HVO, how realistic is it as an alternative fuel? You mentioned alternative fuels earlier. HVO, anybody using it?
Personally?
No, any form you wish.
Iveco's are already out the box with an HVO compliance to it. Again, it's on the journey, isn't it? It's not the final answer. Probably not the right answer, actually. It's final answer, final solution. But it's it's one thing you can do today. I think you said that. If there's one thing that you can do today in the vehicle suitable, why not? It's another step on the journey, isn't it? Whether the next step is a gas or an EV full, that's your choice.
I also think you have to be a little bit careful on HVO in your sourcing of it, because if we're really trying to be sustainable, then we need to make sure, and we know that DPD have done a lot, and Ollie Crawn has spent a huge amount of time researching the origins of his HVO, to make it work. So that has to be a consideration in the same way.
Completely right. Now then, Neil Barnes asks a question, for small vans and cars, how important is it that OEMs continue to develop efficient hybrid and plug-in hybrid options to still reduce carbon where full EV is not suitable? We'll come to the OEM in just a second. I suspect there is a frothing man in the corner who has some opinion about plug-in hybrids and hybrid technology. Sam, would you like the microphone, dear? Go on.
Some people in the audience know you already. I can feel the eyes, but yeah, hybrids I like to call them, because I think they've had their time. Hybrids were a great technology for a period, and I think it bridged the gap nicely when we were looking to do this transition to fully electric. But now I fail to see the use case for them. They're still, the thing that's got me very cross for many years is this self-charging hybrid type branding that the likes of Toyota have used, which is It's just completely misrepresenting what they are. Yes, okay, it's self-charging using a petrol engine, so it's just like stop doing that. But yeah, I mean, I guess if there was a time and a place for hybrids when people were doing short journeys, they could do it all on EV, and then they needed to use the petrol for long journeys. That's great, but now you can do long journeys on EV, so that just negates the need for hybrid entirely. It's less moving parts, less complications, less cost. And just zero necessity in this modern day when battery electric can do the miles that we need them to do.
Rich, what does the data tell us about the use of hybrid and plug-in hybrid in commercial settings, in fleets, whether that be a car or a small van?
I'm kind of with Sam, if I'm honest. I mean, at the end of the day, you get an MPG figure. You know, that's the vehicle is still delivering an MPG, and yes, it's greater than that. From a car perspective, you know, I stop more frequently than the car needs to. So let's, I think we've got you there. So, you know, and you know, to the charging network, you know, I've tried to test it actually over the last, and you know, I've started finding myself stopping at places I could never imagine I've stopped, and yet there we are. There's some really good, robust charging infrastructure to deal with that. I think we have to deal with people's individual fears. We're sitting here quite comfortable as EV users, and I've done it for a few years. There's still people who need that assurance. So I don't know, maybe I do think they need to get past them, but I also think people need to do something. And if that first something is getting the first use of electric. So I know one individual in Scotland who has just got their first hybrid, and they are doing every journey on electric, and they've gone, oh, this is working. And I know their next car will be something different, and the next van. And so maybe if it is a mechanism that allows them to move forward and not just stay where they are, then.
Well done, Richard. I think you covered both sides of the argument there. SJ, any in your fleet?
No.
Shocker.
No. Obviously, I was asked that question years ago, you know, do we go hybrid? I was quite firm and said no. I don't believe that it is the solution. It certainly wasn't for OVO. We wanted to be 100% electric. We can only do that through BEVs at the end of the day. You know, we had drivers who we had to ring fence that we couldn't touch, who had to be in the diesels because we mobilise. So we have people from the south of England who mobilise up to Scotland, you know, to work in patches where we need them to go. I haven't touched those drivers for 18 months. Oh my God, that came out wrong. In my head, it was working. My head was going faster than my mouth. Yeah. Yes, exactly. However, we're now at the point where we can actually we've opened up a Scotland network through Charge Place Scotland. So there is no reason why those drivers can't have EVs, and they are transitioning as of today. I could have easily have gone, hey, let's put them in hybrids. I didn't want to. I knew they were going to transition. They just didn't do it 18 months ago. They're doing it today. So just have a plan. It will all work out. You don't have to jump into hybrids because I think that's going to solve everything, because it may not.
Brilliant. Thank you, Sam.
I just wanted to highlight on Richard's point that what he's basically saying is that his vehicle range is about 300 miles, but his bladder range is about 200. And that was actually something that was something that I think it was the chairman of VW joked about a few years ago. So my bladder range is about 200 miles. So it's not about how far my car can go on one charge. It's about whether the infrastructure is there when I get there. And an expression that I wrote in an article a couple of years ago, which has gone around a little bit, is that my methodology now is that I don't stop to charge. I charge because I've stopped. So what often happens is I'm baking that into my journey, and I'm grazing now because the infrastructure is getting so much better that quite often, by the time I've got a coffee and had a wee, the charging is secondary or tertiary, whatever. It is tertiary. Sure, yeah. It's standing wrong in my head. Yeah, and in some cases I've had to move the car because I didn't want to go but I wanted to make sure that somebody else had access to that charger. So the infrastructure is therefore getting almost there now, if not there, such that long journey is mitigated. So we don't need hybrids anymore because the EVs can definitely do it for us.
Yeah. George, do you have something or not?
That we have never even wasted time on a hybrid probably answers the solution for you there.
Enough said, my friend, enough said. Right, we are coming to the end of today. I have one of three options. I can ask one of these, I can ask one from in here, or I can ask one of these. You choose. Anybody? Oh, thank you so much.
I guess this is going to be mostly towards you, SJ, but the panel might have a view. How did you deal during your transition with loss of productivity? Taking into account you're probably using home-based workers, fit service engineers, people like that. They're not going to move their weekend pride and joy off the driveway to put your corporate branded vehicle and plug it into their domestic supply. So first thing on a Monday morning, they've got to go and plug in and charge, and that's lost productivity. So how did you overcome that?
Yeah, it is a challenge. Again, it didn't. You couldn't just move out of ICE and go straight into EV and expect nothing to change. It did have to change. We equip the drivers, like I said, we equip the driver with as much information as we possibly can. We don't plan their routes for them. They know what jobs they have to do in the day and they plan them. So they will work around charging, in their lunch breaks. If they're at McDonald's or something like that, they'll charge then. There's always an element where they need to do paperwork. So again, they will plug in and do their paperwork at the same time. That being said, our business had to adapt. Again, there's no way around that. You will have to adapt, but businesses adapt all day, every day. And just putting the element of EVs in there is just the next natural step. So just work with other departments in your business and, educate them on EVs as well, because that's really, really important. We know it, the drivers know it, but again, whoever does route optimization or anything like that, they need to fully understand what the vehicles are capable of. And again, what drivers tell them the vehicle isn't capable of when we know it is.
Richard.
I was just going to say on this, we talked about this the other day on Friday when we were just chatting, but you put as much effort into the middle managers of departments as the drivers, because at the end of the day, they're the ones delivering your message. So it's to your stakeholder map, make sure your middle management is fully on board with what you're trying to achieve.
Okay, thank you so much. Right, ladies and gentlemen, somebody asked me a question this morning, one of the film crew, who said, what do you hope to achieve today? And the thing I hoped to achieve when I set off at 3:30 this morning from Scotland was that you'd go home with one thing that was either new or you'd been reminded of that you can do to move a little bit forward in your journey to decarbonisation. Show of hands, who's got some value like that out of today? I saw you nudge him. Put your hand up. Thank you so much. That's really, really made me feel quite special. And I know you've got huge admiration for these guys. Big round of applause for the panel, please. A final thing, if I may, which is to thank the team at Webfleet, but far more personally that Josh has been absolutely outstanding, absolutely brilliant.
Great work, Josh.
At organising this, at setting everything up, all the technologies, made sure everything happens, along with Alan, the award-winning marketing manager for Webfleet. The pair of them are absolutely brilliant. I've done, probably in my life, I've chaired and hosted hundreds and hundreds of events. I've worked with the BBC, Channel 4, and I can honestly say that they do not do things as professionally as these guys. And if they do, telematics and the analysis of data, finding those insights, as well as they do this stuff, you're in safe hands. Well done, guys. Thank you very much. Just leaves me to introduce James Dewhurst, Richard Parker. Thank you very much and good night.
Okay, Rich. Before we break away, I guess what we wanted to do is look at, well, what next? What's the call to action from this? So why we're here as well, we've covered that off, but we've got a couple of slides that we're going to share. So obviously, this is urgent. You know, we know the reasons why we're all here. You've all invested the time, so really appreciate you doing that. But it's about the step change that we need to go through in order to engage people from here. So you've got a lot of people in the room here. You've got the panel who you can speak to afterwards. It's not just about networking with them. Webfleet team, do you want to stick your hands up? We've got various Webfleet team. There's a few over here. And as Richard told you, we don't get incentivized by the government to drive EVs, but over 50% of my team do. You know, they've made that choice themselves. They can share that experience with you and they're passionate about it. We get people now that are intrinsically motivated, not just extrinsically, which is quite rare in sales because we're here for a reason. So use that opportunity to speak to these guys, use the opportunity to speak to Webfleet, but also use the opportunity to speak to each other. Because if we can get Carl Halford speaking to Andy Stapleton's, and you can combine your power and go into the OEMs, you know, that's the thing that we've seen more than anything with this change, is that combined, we can do more with collaboration, pressure on OEMs, and those areas to try and deliver. So that's one of the most important things I think we'll look at. And if we go to the next slide, this is the challenge that we're facing. The reason we're doing it is because transport is the biggest issue we have when it comes to, you know, greenhouse gases. So it's a big problem that we have to solve. The government can do certain amounts when it comes to legislation and pressures, but it still takes adoption and it still takes inspiration in that method. And I think the next one is, if you're trying to engage people in that message, there is a great reason behind it because there are savings to be made. Whilst there are challenges, there are traditional savings that you can make from your existing fleet, but also when you look at driving behavior, it's a much bigger disparity now between the driving behavior savings you could make from an EV to a petrol and diesel. So there's a lot more that you can do in this environment. You know, when we look at everything else you can do across your fleet, there's lots of savings you can make. If you need to invest this capital, use the telematics now. So even if you can't make the changes at this point, you can make it in 2 to 3 years' time, but just need to start on that journey. So these are some of the key messages that we're going to want to explain with you. Use the next hour or so, stay as long as you want. The people are here, we care, we want to be part of it. So please do that. And Richard, you've got as well.
Yeah, we didn't really touch on this much in the actual conversation, but we're really pleased to have a couple of partners with us here. And the bit we didn't discuss was the connection between energy and vehicles, in which, you know, we've never had it so important as we do now to make sure that the energy is available for commercial fleets to be able to continue their operations, whether you are home-based or whether you are depot-based. So as well as just talking to the panel and trying to soak up some more of their brains, we've got Vev and we've got Power just out the back here. So please go and see them, have a chat with them and see if they can actually add value to you in terms of understanding how you might start to think about how your energy and your payment of your EVs is going to work.
And from our perspective, we're investing in our people. So Richard is a new role that's been created to support not only our customers, but also our partners and our resellers. We've got people like Mark here today who's taking that on board and learning from that area. We're trying to make sure we can give them the experience so they can pass it through to you if you're a partner customer. And we will continue to do that. We could only got one of Richard, unfortunately, but we will make sure through the coaching and through the education it reaches everybody else. And today has been great. So I also want to thank you massively for your time, because we know that is the most important part. So hopefully you've got something out of today. If you haven't yet, make sure you use the next hour or so to do so. And I want to say a massive thank you to all the panel once again, because it's been absolutely incredible hearing all your stories. So thank you very much. And yeah, enjoy the next hour or so.